Okay. Good morning. That was great. Let's do it again. Good morning. Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. Grateful to be here with you. Grateful to have those folks with us who are joining us through the ether. Grateful to see all those wonderful people out there on the pavilion waving. That's always nice. I would like to express my gratitude this morning to those folks who found themselves down at the corner of Airport Pulling Road and 41 yesterday afternoon between 1 and 3. Who was there? Please stand up. Thank you. We were there standing up for democracy, letting folks know that we stood with Ukraine. And it was an incredible afternoon. I wasn't there the whole time, I admit, but we were among about 350 people who showed up down there and receiving a lot of honks on horns as people drove by. It was a wonderful afternoon, and I believe, as I heard the conversations, that we were among a very mixed group politically. So it was a good day, a very good day. And it's a good day when Kathy Summers joins us as worship associate. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am fine. I am
Oh, wait a minute.
Kathy.
I missed my announcements.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Hold on to that welcome for a second. All right. As always, you should be looking for the blue sheet out in the foyer if you really want to know what's going on here, but I'll give you a few reminders. Our forum, another great forum this afternoon after the service, titled For Our Children's Children with Mara Vertriz, founder of Third Act Florida, which is part of a national organization of seniors committed to protecting our planet and preserving our precious democracy. Also today, after the service, marks the beginning of a new exhibit in Menaker Foyer featuring UUCGN artist Juliet Araujo and Lino Gnezda. Tomorrow, Monday at 1:30, the Social Justice Committee invites you to its second 5 Calls Hopeful Happy Hour, where you can make calls to your representatives in Washington, all in the company of your fellow congregants. We'll also be learning a little bit about how to contact our Florida legislatures tomorrow. And if anyone needs help navigating the 5 Calls app, there'll be a table out after the service today with, I guess, some technically proficient people to help you with that. Wednesday brings the final Progressive Voices of our year with Speaker Michael Lieberman, who is the Southern Poverty Law Center Senior Policy Counsel in Washington, and his focus is countering hate and extremism while still protecting our freedom of speech. Again, look at the blue sheet out in the foyer. And now.
Hi, everybody. You know, it's nice to get the pressure off, forget something right off the bat, because then you can relax because you've already done it. Okay, let me add my welcome to all of you, old friends and new, as we come together in community. We're especially thankful for those of you who are here for the first, second, or even third time. We hope that you find comfort, connection, and love here. If you're new, and even if you're not, the statement on the back of our order of service speaks well to those things we hold as important. Our goal as individuals and as a community is to take these affirmations and make them manifest in our daily lives. And a reminder, this is the second Sunday of the month when we split our collection with a community organization devoted to serving the community. Today, our Split the Plate proceeds will go to NAMI Collier, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. It provides mental health support, advocacy, and education for everyone. 3 months to seniors. I'll share a little more about that later, but for the moment, let's relax and settle ourselves into this time of worship with a prelude.
When strangers meet, endless possibilities emerge. New experiences, new ways of understanding, new ways of taking action. When strangers meet, each pays special attention to the other. Each is called to serve something larger than the self. Today, this morning, let's light the chalice for openness and welcome, for willingness to grow, for rich community, for interested curiosity, for common purpose. Please join me in the chalice lighting words on the screen and on your order of service. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn. It's number 38 in the gray hymnal, Morning Has Broken.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them singing fresh from the word. Beneath the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Ramadan, the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, began a week ago, and around the world, 2.3 billion Muslims are observing this holiest of times, honoring the revelation of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad. It is a time of fasting and connecting more intentionally with God. It's a time of family and community. Muslims make up almost a quarter of the world's population, not to be dismissed or stereotyped, not to be lumped together in a single entity. Even here in the United States, both immigrant and U.S.-born Muslim populations are racially and ethnically diverse. And as with Christianity and Judaism and Buddhism, there's a diversity of beliefs under the umbrella of Islam. But all Muslims hold to the 5 pillars of the faith, which we'll talk about later, and all honor in some way this time of reflection, this month of Ramadan. In Gaza this year, Ramadan was greeted in the midst of a fragile ceasefire with a sense of grief and loss for the more than 48,000 people, including women and children, who have lost their lives in this ugly and unconscionable conflict. In the makeshift marketplaces, food and other goods that had been scarce for well over a year have begun to return. You can find fragrant spices, frozen chicken, dates, and some produce. Abdelhalamin Awad, who runs the bakery in central Gaza, said that while prices have dropped since the worst days of the war, when a 55-pound sack of flour would cost hundreds of dollars, the costs have dropped, but many people still do not have the wherewithal to purchase the goods they need. Street vendors have refrained from playing the special songs they normally would during this month. One resident interviewed by the New York Times said, "This Ramadan is nothing like the ones before. The war has drained it of meaning." He added that even with the ceasefire, nothing here feels worthy of celebration. It's hard to imagine when life in that region will return to normal. And yet, even amid the destruction and the sense of grief and sorrow, people are finding ways to observe the long-standing rituals of Ramadan. In the city of Rafah, Malak Fada decided that because of and despite the heartbreak, there was a need to try and bring back joy to the streets. So a communal meal was organized to celebrate Iftar, the meal that marks the end of the first day's fast. Hundreds of Palestinians of all ages found their way to a central street to sit together and eat together amidst the rubble. The echoes of war still ring loud in Gaza. There's no certainty that the ceasefire will last. People are anxious about what will happen next. They fear the return of war. The festive spirit is gone, but even here, the core of Ramadan remains. Let's remain seated and join in our centering hymn, Gathered Here. It's number 389 in the gray hymnal. The words will be on the screen.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near.
This morning, during this time together, our usual time of expressing joys and sorrows, I ask that we sit together in silence for an extended time to honor the hundreds and thousands, the hundreds of thousands of people who have died in the wars that ravage our world today, in Gaza, in Sudan, in Ukraine. As you sit, you're free to consider what comes to mind, the destructive side of our natures that brings us to a moment like this, the resilience of the human spirit that can find light amidst the darkness, our own internal struggles with our very human natures, perhaps a personal joy or sorrow. If you find this time uncomfortable, then remember the discomforts of so many people around the globe. If you need something on which to focus in the spirit of Ramadan, think of how you might more fully connect with your own deep beliefs and values. A time of silence. Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi, the great 13th century Sufi mystic, wrote of being human, that it was like being a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, he wrote. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, treat each guest honorably. It may be that he's clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Spirit of life, we know that human beings have the capacity to soar to the greatest heights and also to stumble into the depths of deep depravity. Even within our own lives, we know that we are not all we offer to the world. We are both better and worse. Let us heed the words of the mystic and be grateful for our inner guests, because each has been sent as a guide for our ever-deepening understanding. A few more moments in silence.
The reading this morning is from Divan-i-Shams by Rumi, one of two major works of his poetry. He's often called the prophet of love because of his ability to frame religion as being pure love. He saw the cause of misery in the world as forgetting who we truly are and being separated from that pure love. And in order to return to ourselves, we need to surrender our ego. He wrote, "I was dead, then I came to life. I was all tears, then I broke into laughter. Love bid me enter my kingdom. After that, I became immortal." He said, "You have not lost your mind yet. You are not worthy of this house." I went and lost my mind and came back to serve his wishes. He said, "You are not intoxicated. Be gone. You don't belong here." So I got drunk, immersed in bliss. He said, "You are not slain, not yet drenched in ecstasy." Right there before his life-giving face, I fell like a lifeless corpse. He says, "You're a sheik, a master." I said, "I am nothing, only a slave to your command." He said, "You already have wings. I won't give you wings." Seeking his feather and wings, I let go of mine. Then love said to me, "Stay here. I am the eternal love." I said, "I will never leave. I am here, now and forever." So now there's going to be a translation of what I just read. You can hear it in Farsi. It's a little different.
مرده بودم زنده شدم گریه بودم خنده شدم دولت عشق آمد و من دولت پاینده شدم گفت که دیوانه نی لایق این خانه نی رفتم و دیوانه شدم سلسله بندنده شدم گفت که سرمست نی رو که از این دست نی رفتم و سرمست شدم و از طرب آکنده شدم.
دعونا نعيش بسلام دعونا نعيش بأمان دعونا ننسج اللهم دعونا نموت بسلام دعونا نعيش بسلام دعونا نعيش بأمان دعونا ننسج aman دعونا نموت بسلام.
In the late 6th century, the city of Mecca had established itself as a thriving metropolis, a trading and financial center, with caravans coming and going to places like Persia and Byzantium and Syria, bringing with them new wealth and new ideas. Mecca was also a violent place at that time, as old tribal factions vied for wealth and power, even as individuals began to accumulate great personal wealth. In the midst of such great change, the pagan traditions and the old tribal values were beginning to break down. The faith which served the Arab tribes during nomadic times did not fit the new reality. Belief in the old pantheon of gods was shifting, and Allah, the high God, was increasingly seen as being identical with the one God of the Jews and the Christians. And in the midst of all this change and disruption, in the year 609 of the Common Era, toward the end of the month of Ramadan, a merchant named Muhammad began to receive the divinely inspired scripture known as the Quran. He had taken time for solitude and meditation in the mountains near Mecca, and he was shaken by the experience that he had. Overwhelmed, he said. He described the experience as sometimes being painful, like his soul being torn away, and sometimes like the ringing of a bell. For 3 years after the first revelation, Muhammad was depressed. He didn't widely share the experience or the verses that had come to him, but with the support and encouragement of his wife, Khadijah, he began to dictate the scriptures to his companions who would memorize them and begin to spread the word. Muhammad received these revelations over the course of 23 years, and it wasn't until after his death that the Quran was written down. Quran literally meaning the thing that is recited. It did not claim to be a new revelation, but a restatement of the message that God gave to Adam, considered the father of humanity and the first prophet. The scriptures also stated that Muhammad was not replacing the prophets from the past, but was returning the people to the deep faith of Abraham, who lived long before the Torah or the gospel. The Quran is really not about doctrine. In fact, the text is skeptical of theological speculation. Rather, it is much more a demand to practice compassion, clearly teaching that building a private fortune at the expense of others is wrong, but that it is good to share fairly what wealth you are able to accumulate. The Quran asks believers to create a just and decent society where the poor and vulnerable are treated with respect. The Quran outlines 5 pillars of the faith, which amplify the idea that Islam is a practice. The first pillar is the declaration of faith, or shahada. There is no God but God. The second pillar, called salah, which incorporates the first, is the practice of praying 5 times a day at prescribed times, directed toward Mecca. The third pillar, called Sawm, is the practice of regular fasting, which is observed broadly during this month of Ramadan. Fasting is an act of worship and self-control that strengthens one's connection to God, providing a deeper awareness of those who are in need. Which leads to the fourth pillar, zakah, or charity, which is giving to those who are in need. And the final pillar is Hajj, the making of an intentional pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in a lifetime. All these practices have the objective of building an attitude of taqwa, or God consciousness, a connection to the divine, a living of life in alignment with the divine. Author Suzanne Hanif explains that, suggests that taqwa is a combined desire to please and an avoidance of any act that would be displeasing, born both out of love and grounded in the awareness that one always stands before God. During this holy month of Ramadan, with the exception perhaps of the Hajj, all that is taught within Islam is practiced at a heightened level, bringing increased awareness of what right living might look like. How might we relate to this? Other traditions, Judaism, Christianity, also have times in their year when they are called to fast or at least give up something in order to be brought into a different state of awareness. It's not something that's part of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, and maybe that's too bad. American Muslim Ibu Patel, founder of the Interfaith Youth Corps and president of Interfaith America, writes about how we, as relatively affluent Americans, often move through our days satisfying our little desires, many of them revolving around food and drink. We start thinking about our second cup of coffee, he writes, before we're barely through the first. When we can't decide between sweet or savory for a snack, we sometimes opt for both. We live in the land, he writes, of serial small desires, serially satisfied. But Patel shares that after a while he finds something spiritual numbing about constantly getting what he wants. A sense that he's building a world that revolves around fulfilling his minor wishes. Knowing intellectually that he's not the center of the universe, he becomes aware that his daily routines around food and other small things tend to indicate that he is in fact quite self-centered. Ramadan offers a break from that repeating everyday pattern. Ramadan, he writes, is another country. And like any experience of elsewhere, the biggest difference lies not in the change in landscape, but in the altered perspective of the traveler. Patel finds that this system allows him to slow down during this month. It's the only way to make it through a day of fasting. And he finds himself noticing things he wouldn't otherwise notice, and feeling connected in ways that aren't routine, like paying attention to the hopeful look on the face of the guy selling bottles of water in the middle of Chicago's busiest avenue. Even walking more slowly, he can't revert to the "I don't have time" excuse with the homeless woman on the corner. So he stops and asks how she's doing. Same landscape, different perspective. And for those of us who find these times very challenging, Samar al-Bayati, a UU Muslim of Iraqi descent, shares her story of a time when she was experiencing a serious crisis of faith. Feeling buried by pain and suffering and not seeing a way through, she went on a journey to find herself during this month, to find within her suffering a holy and sacred place. Remembering that the Prophet Muhammad first received the revelation of the Quran in the cave of Hira, she tried to embrace her crisis as an entrance to a cave that the divine had opened up for her. All that was needed was to enter and seek refuge. She wrote that it's hard to find a sense of the holy when we go through difficulties. But that's the exact time when we need to find more time to pause, to study, to meditate. For some, the holy month of Ramadan becomes a beautiful reminder to return to herself and remember who she truly is and what the world is calling her to become. For Muslims around the world, this month of Ramadan is a time of going deeper into a spiritual oasis, like entering a cave for a few hours while fasting from bodily nourishment. It's an invitation to pause for a whole month in order to reawaken spiritually through whatever practice or practices might be best and might best lead you to a greater awareness of what truly matters in your life and in your life in community. A holy retreat from the mundane, even in the midst of the ordinary. What if we were all to find spiritual nourishment by entering whatever doors open to the divine spirit on a daily basis? What if we gave ourselves each day, at the beginning of each day, those 5 minutes of silence to feel and to think and to allow something to enter? What if each day we awoke and began it with a reflection, made it a practice to stop and honor our connections in community, our connections with what we might consider divine, each morning, each day, each evening? What would we become?
As I mentioned earlier, this is the second Sunday of the month when we split our collection with a community organization devoted to serve the community. Today, our Split the Plate proceeds will go to NAMI Collier. The National Alliance on Mental Illness Collier provides mental health support, advocacy, and education for everyone, 3 months to senior. NAMI Collier is the gold standard of local chapters because of its numerous programs such as supportive housing, life skills and support program, a peer-run call line, self-directed care, supported employment, a drop-in center with food, a children's behavioral health center, and family support groups. With 1 in 5 persons having a mental health diagnosis, NAMI Collier can use our support to run their programs. For those online, a contribution can be mailed to the address on the screen and also by using our website at uunaples.org. We're truly grateful for all gifts received.
Perhaps it does not begin
All of our major religious traditions, Islam included, have strayed from the original path in different ways at different times. No religion is perfect in its practice. But it's always good to return to the essence of what has been taught. In the Muslim hadith of Nawawi, the Prophet Muhammad teaches, "No one of you is a believer until he desires for his brother that which he desires for himself." In the Hindu legend of Mahabharata, the divine Krishna declared, "This is the sum of duty. Do nothing unto others which would cause you pain if done to you." In the Buddhist texts of Udan Varaga, the student is urged, "Hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful." In the Taishang treatise of Taoism, the seeker is instructed, "Regard your neighbor's gain as your gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss." In the ancient wisdom of Shinto, there is a saying, "The heart of the person before you is a mirror. See there your own form." In the Talmud of the Jewish tradition, the sage Hillel said, "What is hateful to you, do not do to others." This is the whole of law. The rest is commentary. In the Gospel of Matthew and the Christian scriptures, Jesus of Nazareth says, "Whatever you wish that others would do to you, so too do to others." The Oglala Lakota spiritual leader, Black Elk, wrote, "All things are our relatives. What we do to everything, we do to ourselves." It is written, it is taught. May it be so. Let's sing together our closing hymn. It's number 318 in the gray hymnal, "We Would Be One." The words will be on your screen.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service with love and justice, strive to make us free.
Closing words come from Saadi Shirazi, a 13th century Persian poet. To worship God is nothing other than to serve the people. It does not need rosaries, prayer carpets, or robes. All peoples are members of the same body created from one essence. If fate brings suffering to one member, the others cannot stay at rest. Let us always seek connection across difference and know the pleasure of service to all. Go in peace. Go in love. Have a wonderful day.